Hi, welcome to SBCU, and we're here to talk about the Specialized Crave. 3 years ago when we created Crave, we realized that there was a need for a bike between our rock hopper and our stump jumper hardtail, and that need was really for an entry-level cross-country race bike, and that's exactly the void that Crave fills. So back when we started this project, we tapped Ned Overend to really help us develop a bike that was going to be raceable, deliver performance, but was actually going to be accessible and approachable for that entry-level rider. And so I'm going to walk you through the frame, the geometry, and some of the tech highlights that deliver on that entry-level cross-country race performance. So let's talk about the frame. So the goal of this project was really to deliver a frame that was going to be stiff and efficient, but that was also going to be comfortable and compliant to ride for an extended period of time. So every Crave frame is a fully butted M4 aluminum frame set with a tapered head tube, 27-2 post compatibility for that thinner post, for that vertical compliance, and then 3D forged post mount dropouts. I think probably what I'm most excited about was the performance we were able to put into this frame just from the tube manipulation. So what you see here, you notice these seat stays go from thinner up here at the seat tube to a little bit thicker down there at the dropout. What that allowed us to do was to be able to deliver the stiffness where you'd want it down here at the dropouts for that stiff chassis, and you actually get some compliance up here by the seat tube to make that a comfortable ride. So we were able to deliver 12.5% more vertical compliance from last year's frame, 5% more lateral stiffness from the stiffness down there at the dropouts, and maintain the BB stiffness that we had before. So what you have now is a stiffer, more efficient, and more compliant frame than years past. So let's get into some of the frame geometries. Like I said earlier, the goal of this platform was to deliver cross-country race performance, but also make sure that it's approachable for that entry-level rider. So Crave is a 2.9 only platform. All the benefits that you get from 2.9, whether you're an entry-level rider or a World Cup racer, are all delivered here in our specialized 2.9 way. So Crave delivers on that specialized XC 2.9er geometry with a roomy top tube, a low BB, and shorter chainstays. But Crave has what I like to call neutral cross-country race geometry, and that's by putting the rider more in the center of the chassis rather than over the front for someone who might be an aggressive World Cup cross-country racer. And so we do that by putting a slightly shorter stem on Crave than we would say a stump jumper hardtail to keep that rider weight a little more over the center. We spec a 100mm travel fork on all Crave models rather than a 90mm on a stump jumper, so the handlebar height is a little higher, so the rider position is a little more upright. And we have slightly longer chainstays than a stump jumper hardtail, so you get an overall more stable platform than you would our stump jumper, which is really kind of an out-of-the-box World Cup cross-country race platform. So let's get into some of the spec highlights. So Crave comes with our body geometry grips, the XC Contour grips, and our body geometry saddle. So of course, our body geometry grips are designed to help decrease numbness and take the pressure off of that nerve in the palm that would result in numb hands when you ride for a longer period of time. And then of course, our body geometry saddle to decrease numbness where you really don't want numbness and makes for a much more comfortable ride as well. Crave has 31/8 bar and stem controls, so you have a much bigger bar and stem interface, stiffer and lighter than you would say from a 25/4 that you'll see on some lower end bikes. All Crave models have a tapered air-sprung fork. They all have tapered alloy steers, so much lighter than a steel steer. The tapered steer also creates a much stiffer interface at the head tube for more precise steering than, say, a straight 1 1/8 inch steer tube that you'll see on some lower end bikes. And then, of course, the air spring, two things. One, it's significantly lighter than a coil spring, and it allows the rider to adjust the spring rate for their weight without having to swap out springs. Move down here to the drivetrain. We have our 2x10 drivetrains at all levels of Crave. And it's very similar to what you see at the high end, say on Epic or Stump Jumper Hardtail. and that 36-22 gearing that you see on those bikes as well. That's 29er gearing that we spec on all bikes. And so this shares a lot of what you see at the high-end race level. We also spec clutch type rear derailleurs on all models. And so what that is that's like Shimano's Plus system here that decreases the amount of movement that you get from the rear derailleur. So it minimizes the chain slap. It creates a much quieter ride, but it's also much more reliable because the chain isn't hopping all around. And then the tires. We spec a ground control in the front and a fast track in the rear. And the reason we do that is you want a little more bite up front. You want some traction from that tire, and so we put a ground control that has a little bit more meat on there. And then a fast track in the rear because it's a much faster rolling tread design, and so you get a nice, fast, efficient rear tire with a front tire that's going to deliver the handling and the grip that you need. So that's the Specialized Crave. It's your perfect entry-level cross-country race platform.